Welcome everyone, I'm the Body Counter, and today I've got an important video to discuss Battlefield 5's next big chance. Something that can resurrect some, if not most of the community which abandoned the game during the build up to the game's launch. This turning point for DICE is quite literally the turning point of World War II as well, the Axis invasion of the USSR, and I'll be discussing why this is a game changer and what we could expect in terms of content for the game. Right now, Battlefield 5 is struggling. They're losing countless players and have already lost a ton before launch. But you're probably wondering, BC, how in the hell are the Russians going to fix this? Well, that answer lies in the previous game, Battlefield 1. No matter what opinion you have, whether they shall not pass, in the name of the Tsar, Turning Tides, or God forbid Apocalypse is your favourite DLC from Battlefield 1, in the name of the Tsar was a step up for DICE, as they gave the player base tons of the one thing they never stop asking for.
Content!
Any fanbase of any game always wants more, asks for too much, and however you spin the DLCs from Battlefield 1, the Russian expansion quenched the thirst of the community for much longer than it did for They Shall Not Pass. On screen now is a small chart I made comparing the amount of content we got from both the French and Russian DLCs. I don't cover what game mode is better or what guns were good or bad, as I'd be biased in doing so for the comparison, and everyone has their own opinions. They Shall Not Pass may have had the quality, but in the name of the Tsar had a good balance between both quality and quantity, and that is exactly what is going to save Battlefield 5. The Russian faction in any World War II game is what players live for, and they've already made such iconic appearances in other shooters such as COD World at War and Red Orchestra 2 Heroes of Stalingrad. The PPSH spam, the intense aura of a Russian horde, and their representation is what players love to see. The media, be that games, books, documentaries or movies, portray the Soviet Russians in three ways in accordance to their war efforts: under-equipped and uncoordinated, tough and heroic, or brutal and heartless. If DICE play their cards right and really just go all out in the first Russian Tides of War chapter, they might have a chance of keeping their current players locked into playing the game for much longer, bringing new players to the experience, and even influencing ex-Battlefield fans to give the game another try. Much like in the name of the Tsar, DICE have an immense field of potential when it comes to the Russian inclusion, as the Russians during World War II were iconic to the conflict and pivotal in the defeat of Germany. The Eastern Front grew infamous for its bloodiest battles, historic events, and horrific atrocities. The opening invasion of Russia saw conflicts like the Battle of Minsk, Kiev, and Sevastopol cripple the powerful communist state. Heart-grabbing outcomes of Stalingrad and Moscow would prove to the world that Germany wasn't invincible, and the 1944 to 1945 Soviet push to Berlin would see the end of the Reich and the dawn of a new era. The Eastern Front offers well-known and obscure battles for DICE to recreate as maps in-game over time, and with new maps comes many new weapons, vehicles, game modes, factions, and more. If DICE want to expand on lesser-known battles as they've done before, they can very well do this, as there are just as many obscure battles on the Eastern Front as there are well-known ones. To the point, they can in fact launch the Russian Tides of War chapter with more than one new faction to the company customization. Romania joined the Axis long before Operation Barbarossa even began, and they were the second largest Axis fighting force on the Eastern Front, with Germany respectively taking first place. Not to mention the Finnish, who fought along with the Axis in the north, but were not formally Axis members. In the form of a Tides of War chapter, the first Eastern Front chapter would focus on the opening invasion, with possible maps being the Battle of Odessa, the Battle of Kiev, the invasion of the Baltic states, or the Finnish invasion of East Karelia. Accompanying any two maps of these mentioned battles, the expected weapons to be featured in this first chapter worth unlocking are sure to be the AVS-36, the SVT-40, PPSH-41, DP-27, DS-39 tank variant MMG with a bipod and pistol grip, Mosin Nagant AT-9130, and the TT-33. For a new stationary weapon, we could also expect the powerful caliber DS-HK HMG. I was going to suggest the Stug 3 for the Axis company in this video, but upon doing this voiceover, the Stug 4 has already been teased for the upcoming Lightning Strikes Tides of War chapter, while the Soviets get an even bigger content drop in terms of vehicles. The T-26 is a light tank, the legendary T-34 medium tank, the KV-1 heavy tank to challenge the Tiger, the BA-36 acting as a heavy armoured car much like the Allies' Staghound, and the T-90 AA tank serving as an anti-air vehicle. The USSR company would also receive the BA-20 armoured truck and the Komsomolets armoured tractor as transport vehicles at base spawn. As for aircraft, the German Luftwaffe would see the introduction of the Bf-110, a heavy fighter suited for bomber escort, ground support, and night bombing and fighting, while having much more armour but less manoeuvrability to the standard fighter category. For the Russians, a ground support aircraft much like the Stuka B-1 and 2 would be the IL-2 and the IL-2M. The Yak-1 and Yak-3 would be fighters as competition for the Bf-109 G1 and G6. The IL-4 bomber would prove as a capable equal to the Junkers 88, and the PE-2 being a combination of a heavy fighter as the previously mentioned Bf-110 and the current Mosquito for the British team. New Soviet reinforcements we could see include the ZIS-30 tank destroyer, a Katyusha rocket barrage as a Soviet equivalent to the V-1 rocket, and the T-35 land battleship. In reality, quite an unreliable piece of garbage, but in-game, a level 100 boss, almost reminiscent of the Char 2C from Battlefield 1. After the initial mass content drop, further weapon releases such as the Maxim Tokarev LMG, PPS SMG, Romanian Orita M1941, AS-44, SKS and RPD would have a chance of making their way to the game as well, after the Tides of War chapter which introduces the Japanese of course, along with many more tanks, planes and maps. This video is mainly about the initial launch of the Russians to the game in 1941, but the number of future maps and other content we could see is immense. Well-known battles such as Stalingrad and Kursk, to the lesser-known conflicts such as the Battle of Konigsberg and the invasion of Manchukuo could be expected later down the track. But it is unknown at this point how immensely packed the future Tides of War content will be. But for now, all we can do is wait and see, while also voicing to those connected to DICE or forums what we wish to see. This has worked in the past, as seen with the inclusion of the Burton LMR and the Thompson Annihilator post-premium in Battlefield 1. So long as we make it apparent to those at DICE what the community wants in terms of content, I have no fear we'll be lacking those previously mentioned ideas for the 1941 Russian chapter. I hope you enjoyed this more serious and informative video for a change, as I felt it was really necessary to share with you guys, considering this to be a literal game changer for DICE, and I don't want to see this game fail like Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like to show your support with what was discussed. If you have anything to say positive or constructive to this opinion, don't be afraid to share it in the comments below and I'll check your response. To keep up to date on future videos, subscribe and or join my Discord to become part of the community, and as always, keep on fighting.